Good day, folks. I hope you're all having a good time today. Just an update on things. I've been not posting as often because I've been pretty busy with the summer and everything going on here. And I just wanted to touch base and say hello to everyone. And I also, in reference to my last video here, I wanted to. A lot of people essentially ask in the comments, right? Oh, geez, this is very interesting. And where do I start? What document do I look at? And simply, most of the time, I'll just refer to, look in my playlist or something, right? Or start in my early videos or look in the form, right? But when you're getting close to 10 years of all of this, it accumulates, especially when I've been posting, whether it's a video or on a form somewhere, it all gets accumulative. So, if it's taking me, days to organize it all. I'm sure it takes people a while that are trying to find something they're not even sure about. So without realizing it, the information gets, very dense. So what I've done is I've noticed, even people like Bedini back in the day, even Tom Bearden, they all had their website, which had their key publications, all easy to follow step by step to basically someone can know what they're all about from their literature on the website, right? So I decided it's about time that I make a real official website. So I have. So the website is typewrite.social/Joel. So essentially very similar to the form, which is typewrite.social/form, the change being /Joel. So that opens up my personal website, which has all of my theories, the refinements, and the links to the website only extra elements that I don't talk about on YouTube, some details, a lot of the stuff that I can't even talk about because they probably wouldn't even allow it on the platform. A lot of advanced, but a lot of simplified at the same time. Basically, a nice coherent from the beginning where someone would start that wants to know about this stuff and how to better understand all of the videos. So I've basically formatted and a lot of resources, PDF booklets of everything, reframed just to better understand all of my topics, all categorized one by one. So there's a good place to start. So if anyone is wondering all about this stuff, and I must be doing something right, by the way, because this is a first, and there's always a first for everything, right? My last video must be pretty meaningful because some people flat out gave me some death threats that they were essentially going to blow my head off because of what I'm posting. So you know what? Can't really take that seriously. YouTube dealt with the negative comments right away, so most people didn't actually see that. But the point is, I must be doing something right. So with that said, I invite you to watch my last movie, the one right before this upload. It's a documentary style that talks about reflections and that kind of stuff. And of course, when I talk about detuning in the last video, I don't mean as a universal thing, right? Resonance has its application respectfully for whatever you need to use resonance for. A method of efficient energy transfer from one point to another. Yes, you'd want to use resonance. For any kind of wireless energy transfer of significant distance. Yes, you'd want to use resonance. To induce high Q effects, yes, you'd want to have resonance. For example, it's one thing to charge a capacitor with reverse energy, but do you really want to waste another hop? You see, you have your tank, right? And you want to try and avoid as much loss as you can all the way back to your load. So what would you do to make sure that capacitor discharges without an additional loss? Well, you can make that a efficient displacement current, capacitor to capacitor discharge, and run your load that way, and then off the displacement current, that becomes your tap to make up for the loss you would have, especially at resonance. It's basically a way to minimize ohmic losses from one capacitor to another. And that's just an example of where resonance would still obviously matter, right? And Tesla, of course, wanted to provide a kind of signal throughout the whole world and use the earth and resonance, obviously. So in that application, yes, it is perfectly valid. So I just wanted to, at the same time, clarify that I'm not trying to steer everyone in the wrong direction all of a sudden. Resonance, respectfully, is its own domain, but a lot of people in this field in the alternative energy will just scream resonance, 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 and call it a day, and all they look for is resonance. You're not going to ever get it if you just depend on resonance. Where a resonance is good is when you need to transfer energy from one system to another. It's not going to allow you to magically amplify that energy into something new, is what I'm getting at. But respectfully, within its own applications, resonance is very helpful. But what I was talking about in my last video is what the transmitter, the beginning, the exciter stage sees as far as when it sends a pulse and what it gets back on the line, and how instead of destroying your devices, you can harvest that with reverse diodes and then sync it somewhere that won't damage your. And obviously, that's not the end of the day. You want to do something with that extra energy, right? So that's when transduction, like what Don Smith was doing, converting it to 60 hertz, displacing between capacitors, using high voltage spark gaps and impulse like Tesla transformer technologies. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So, of course, in those instances, resonance for those stages, respectfully, of course. So I was talking crudely about the, again, transmitter wise. If you're going to treat your generator as a transmitter, RF wise, what happens when you get a signal that comes back? And that could be harvested and taken advantage of instead of wasted. That's all it was. And a lot of people secretly, silently do it. They just don't talk about it. And they got very angry with me for, I guess, exposing part of that. But I've always been the kind of person, right? Say it for what it is. So I hope the information is useful. Again, I encourage you to visit my website. A lot of extended information and a nice coherent for basically anyone who likes this kind of field to get into. So with that said, folks, until next time, and thank you all for watching. Have yourselves all a great day.